You guys see the latest crazy crime video out of New York? From the Daily Mail, stark naked man goes nuts at Union Square subway station in NYC as MTA officials struggle to get him to calm down before he runs into packed subway cars.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show the video.
Yikes.
But this is just like the latest in a series of videos. There's like a video of a lady getting pushed onto the subway tracks. There's videos of like people being shot and mugged. It's just like the amount of content coming out of New York or video footage of all of these crimes and the escalation. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
It's like living in World Star Hip Hop, but in real life. Instead of just seeing it online, you have to deal with it every single day.
There's no accountability anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no
That's
fear.
what's missing. Yeah. It used to feel like if you step out of line, the cops are going to grab you or someone's going to shoot you. Now it's like, where's the out of line? Where's the response? Where's the protection? What's the point of government?
Why would you want to be a cop in these cities? Why? The entire system of the city is designed to backstab you. So here's a great story from Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. We have a cop. I won't name him. He's our neighbor. All right. So he's down the street at the end of the block. Nice little house, little American flag outside. Good cop. Great cop. During the BLM riots, he broke his leg, chasing after some perp. And he breaks his leg, jumps a fence, breaks his leg. And so he's had a lot of time on the couch to like chat with us about what the police force is like in D.C. And through that time, they could not recruit to like fill the chairs inside of their academy, like even halfway. They couldn't get any cops. No one wanted to be a cop, and no one still wants to be a cop in Washington, D.C. This particular police officer is looking for any opportunity to get out possible. Now, some of them want to migrate to places like Florida, where police officers are respected and even paid by Ron DeSantis. You get a $5,000 bonus if you're a cop that moves to Florida. And that makes Florida a very safe place. You ask where do these communities exist? I would argue maybe the Midwest. I was just back in Iowa. Iowa's very nice. Also in Florida. It is wild. I go through our neighborhood and my wife's going to kill me because we think this is a nice best kept secret. But like, it's like you're back in a Norman Rockwell painting. It's like the society functions. People walk their dogs. Kids do play in the street and run around the neighborhood by themselves. It's nuts. And now the mayor of Tampa is a former police officer. And she's a very her name's Jane Castor. She's very law and order. You know, no riots here, no Antifa here, right? No BLM looting here. But I saw it break down in Washington D.C. with my cop friend, and you feel really bad about them because suddenly you're like, I'm going to be the last guy holding the bag. I'm going to be the only guy on call, like that cop in New Orleans who was the only guy on call, and he quit on the spot because he like looks onto his recorder, their little machine. He's like, I'm the only person responding to all these call-ins, and he quit. Wow. He did a Twitter thread on it. It's so terrible for these police officers and these communities that don't support them. They're going to get what's coming to them, which is what you're talking about.
They got to get rid of this mask crap too, because people going into stores with masks on is no good. They have cameras there for security. If you can't see who it is, that's a big danger. It used to be illegal to go into private organizations with a mask on because it was a threat.
You still should have privacy, in my opinion.
Hey,
but at the same time,
not in my private establishment. You're not. You're going to reveal who you are before you come in there.
You can make it. You can. Yeah, that's up to them.
Yeah.
But on your private property, you can do whatever you want. But I still think the government shouldn't be watching and surveilling every single person.
The private company should be surveilling the people that are coming in to buy stuff, and if they don't want masks, then they don't get to take your mask off before you come into my store. I want to see your face. I want to know who I have to go after if you're going to mess with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the government mandated masks in a lot of these circumstances, so you couldn't do that.
So that needs to be repealed now that we know that COVID's done, according to Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm. Well, assuming Joe Biden is correct.
The pandemic is over, is his quote.
We also had that video, I think it was out of Philly as well, where they raid the Wawa. They all storm in and they're smashing everything, and the chick jumps up on the thing, starts twerking, and people are just destroying everything for no reason.
Yeah, I think we still got to be careful calling for more police, more centralization of power, more government, because look at what the government's doing right now. Look what the cops are doing right now. Criminals, psychopaths, robbers, they go to jail, they get released from jail. Political thought criminals stay in jail, heavily prosecuted, heavily punished. And if you only enforce that system and you give it more of your power and authority and money, I think the situation is only going to be worse for the average American. So I think we do need to bring up George Soros and how he financed a lot of the woke district attorneys all throughout the United States that have implemented a lot of these policies that punish people based on their political ideology rather than, of course, the severity of their crime. I think what we have seen is deliberate. I think it is order out of chaos. And I think the larger turnaround around here is people going to be like, more government, more government, more government, more police. And then I think that could be used against a lot of the people calling for it, in my own personal opinion, from my own kind of conspiracy mindset.
Yeah, I like arming the population as opposed to creating more police.
Yeah, personal responsibility, giving people more rights, giving people the ability to defend themselves, I think is a lot more important to call for rather than more police, more centralization, more government, more money towards the state, which they're going to be abusing and using in the worst case scenario against the average American. Because if you look at who the government is serving, it's not you. They're not looking for your best interest. They're not here to really protect and serve. Very few officers, the few should be commended, should be promoted, should be respected, but very few officers actually live by that notion of protecting and serving. A lot of them are here to give you tickets and generate revenue for the state, and we just have to, in my opinion, be a little bit careful when it comes to more in that retrospect, calling for that.
More guns.
More personal responsibility, more freedom, more liberty, and more firearms, sure. I think that would work out better, in my personal opinion, and there would be a lot more. There would be a lot less harm reduction.
I saw video game developers are now making the gun when they call it flagging. If you point a gun at someone when you're walking around with it, they call it flagging.
Yeah, so, you should never do that.
No, of course. And in video games, up until now, when you run, your gun's always pointing forward. So and kids are doing this, whether or not they're getting indoctrinated to think it's fine to point a weapon. Maybe Alec Baldwin forgot, but you're supposed to. The developers are having the guns pointed down now when you point at someone, or pointed up and away when you're aiming. And then as soon as you move past them, you can set the gun back down. That's important, man, because we're brainwashing kids with this stuff, and we need to start learning gun responsibility.
That was like Ian is just sitting here having a conversation, and then very, very quickly spun around to slap Alec Baldwin in the face and then go right back to a very serious
he killed Helena Hutchins, and I wonder if her family's going to get...
We need to make sure the kids are playing the games and their guns are ready. Alec Baldwin, by the way, is a murderer.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin set an example, a really bad example for people in the film and television industry. So
Alec Baldwin killed more people than every single rioter on January 6th.
That's right. Correct.
It's really, yeah.
Yeah, he should be charged. And whatever, man. We talked a lot about the Alec Baldwin stuff. He pointed a gun at somebody, pulled the trigger. He pulled the hammer, he pulled the trigger, went off, it killed her.
Just can't be sloppy with guns. It's easy to learn how to shoot in the modern age. I don't know.
I just think it's ridiculous. There's this whole excuse where it's like, but he was on a movie. And it's like, you can't commit a crime, but I was in a movie. You know what I mean?
No.
So the armorer, you talk about Jeremy Boring. Daily Wire released a very cool movie called Terror on the Prairie, right? Mm-hmm. And so we went there, and there was an armorer. I don't know any armorers, right? Hollywood armor. But there was a dude there. They shoot a lot of guns in this movie. Gino Carano was in the movie. Anyway, this is the first time I met an armorer. Like, oh, this is cool. Alec Baldwin immediately. He's like, oh my God, I get asked this everywhere. In the airport, at the supermarket, everyone finds out what I do, and they ask me about Alec Baldwin. And I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. Because I know what happened. I know for a fact there's a small community of people who do this. I know exactly what happened. This is the story about Alec Baldwin. This is what this armorer said to me. I hope I don't get anyone fired here. He said, what happens is on these movie sets, a lot of sitting around and waiting. People get bored. And the armorers like to actually mess around with the guns and do target practice. And so they put live rounds in the guns. They are real guns, a lot of them. And they have to look real. And they have to act real in some scenes. They have to actually shoot. They have to shoot. They have to physically shoot. And so the armorers, like, you know, to make the time pass, they actually do target practice with these things. And this armorer says, they left a live round in there. And they handed it to Alec Baldwin, and Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger and killed it. I'm not saying in any universe that Alec Baldwin should not be held accountable for this, but he said that there was a projectile left in the gun, and that projectile was just lazy, like someone being lazy, someone being bored on the set, put a live round in the gun.
Except he apparently he had pulled the gun out and pulled the hammer back several times, meaning this revolver, the live round was in the last in rotation, which means because the shot required the dummy rounds to be in it, so it looked like it was loaded, someone put in a bunch of rounds. Maybe they opened it up, saw one, and then filled it with the dummy ones, not realizing. I'd imagine they look different. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they all look the same. Maybe that's possible. But I just look at that and I'm like, we have to make assumptions about how it could have happened, as opposed to the simple solution, which is Alec Baldwin put a bullet in it.
Yes.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the gun. I don't want this Alec Baldwin story to freak people out about guns. He did a horrible, just like a very irresponsible thing, and it's not the gun's fault. If you check the weapon, it functions as intended. Alec Baldwin, man, did he put a sour taste in people's mouth for weapons, and
I
not in today's culture. We need more responsibility with weapons, less fear about weapons, more self-control.
My whole point on the whole Alec Baldwin thing, it's come up recently because now he might be charged, is just calculate how many data points each story requires. Let's say it was the armorers were doing shooting practice and then they made a mistake. You have a whole bunch of different points in this story that have to line up to make this possible. You also have Alec Baldwin fighting with crew and then shooting a woman. And I'm like, the least amount of assumptions is Alec Baldwin fights with crew member, later shoots, kills crew member. As opposed to Alec Baldwin fights with crew member, doesn't think twice about it, goes and has a private meeting with her, doesn't think twice about it. Someone else takes gun doing target practice, then someone else goes to load gun and accidentally puts live bullet only in the last chamber, position, then puts the dummy rounds in the rest, then gives it to Alec Baldwin, who with 40 years of weapons experience doesn't check, and then points at the woman he was fighting with, pulls the hammer back several times, and then finally kills her. And I'm just like, there's just way too much there.
So you're saying there's malice here? You think that Alec Baldwin intended to kill her?
So a bunch of the reporting was that he had been fighting with crew members and crew were threatening to walk off. And then there was an interview he gave where he was calling her like intense or something, like not saying anything very favorable about her. He had a meeting with her, and apparently that he tried saying at first he wasn't friends with her, and later said he was friends with her or something like that. It's been a while since we covered all the details of the story, but I'm just saying that to have a story that involves the armorer, some crew doing shooting practice, the armor, like Alec Baldwin and the angry crew, you have a very circuitous plot about framing Alec Baldwin or a potential accident, which requires, getting 10 numbers correct in a row, versus Alec Baldwin did not have kind words with her. The crew was threatening to walk off the set, and then Alec Baldwin shot and killed her. So it's like the big point for me on this one is that Alec Baldwin has training on firearms, and to be handed a weapon and be like, you got it, bang, whoops. It's like, in what he made the argument that he's not allowed to check firearms when handed to him, because it's not a bad point. It's a good defense. He said, if I'm handed a gun and then I open it up and start fidgeting with it, they're going to take it from me. What did you just do to it? Mm-hmm. We checked it to make sure it was safe. Mm-hmm. So when they give you the gun, you just point and shoot at people. And my argument there is, no way.
No, you check it with the armor, the two of you together, and then
you're with them, safe. And they open it up and they show you the rounds, and they say, these are the rounds, we got them from this box, we're putting them in, and then they should probably cycle them if they're dummies, and then open it again, close it, hand it to the actor to do the scene.
But Alec Baldwin is hubris with 40 years experience, felt untouchable, probably heavy night of drinking the night before, maybe not, but brain fog, didn't care, was pissed off at Helena because he didn't like her anyway, just totally lazy.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.